Welcome to another weekly market report with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homes by Mason team. Today is the first day of May, and I have a different look for you today. You are looking at my weekly inventory tracking for the hyperlocal area. I've talked about this a couple of times in my recent weeks, recent reports, and so I figured I would bring it to you at this time. So this is the data that we at Homes by Mason run for the hyperlocal area. You can see here, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax City, Fairfax County. This is the area where we do most of our business at Homes by Mason. And this is where the data to me has been looking a little bit different than it looks when we look at the larger area, DC metro area and beyond. So I've been seeing something here that I've been talking about, but I want to actually show it to you today. So this, as I mentioned, we run it week over week at Homes by Mason. What we look at is how many new listings do we have each week compared to last year and compared to last week. And then we look at how many new under contracts, new pending contracts we have, again, compared to last year and compared to last week. And then we look at the demand to supply ratio, which tells us compared to how many new listings there were and how many went under contract, basically how much demand was there, which tells you how much supply was left over. And then I've just started adding in here, what was the interest rate each week? So this is what I've been talking about, the year over year change in contracts. If you look, oh, whoops, I can't scroll right now. Let me see if I can scroll. There we go. So going back to January, the year over year change in contracts, the first year, the first week of the year was down 52% from the previous year. That's the first week of the year, so I don't put a ton of weight on that. But then going down, we had some small changes, 12% less than the year before. But then starting here, starting the last week of February, first week of March, the change in contracts year over year. So again, we're looking at how many new contracts did we have written that week compared to the week before. We were down 52.5% the last week in February, and then down 55.8%, down 47%. So week after week after week, starting the end of February, you can see that we've been down a lot compared to the year before in terms of pending contracts. Down 80%. Now that might have had something to do with spring break week compared to last year not being a spring break week. That probably impacted that number. So if we take that out, but still down 47%, down 44.5%, down 42%, down 38%. We'll skip this week, down 47%. So we are seeing a lot fewer contracts being written this time of year compared to the same time of year last year. That is the red flag I've been seeing in our hyper local data. And so I was happy to see last week. So the most recent numbers that we have here for last week up until last Sunday, April 28th, that past week, oh, sorry, get rid of that error number. We were only down in this case by just under 10% compared to the week before. That demand to supply ratio. So oftentimes in previous years, you would see 80, 90, right up in the yellow. When it starts to get in the 90s, this turns yellow. And that's where, if I glance at previous years, you will see 100%, 98%, right? 85, 82, 90, 70, 90. So, right, these were, the demand to supply ratio in other years. Look at this, right? 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 115, 90. This is what it used to look like. Okay, this is what it used to look like, the demand to supply ratio. That was for 2024. Now we're looking at 2025, and these numbers look very different. So mostly we're under the 80s. So starting here, again, starting end of February, 34% demand to supply ratio, 36%, 35%, 40, 40, 26, 12, 36, 50%. So again, this past week was kind of a better week compared to prior weeks that we had a 50% demand to supply ratio. So the red flag that I'm seeing, or what I see in this data, is a decrease in demand, a decrease in contracts written compared to the year before, a decrease in buyer activity. That is what I'm seeing in our hyper local area when I look at our hyper local stats. So that is a look this week for your weekly market report. And I do share this data every Monday. I go live on YouTube and on Facebook around 1:30. I'm live. It's always up by 2 o'clock if you want to see my broader Monday market update. And I may keep bringing this to you. I am watching the data closely, and I want to make sure that you all have the most relevant data to help you make any decisions that you need to make in regards to real estate. And if you want to have those conversations directly with me, I can run the data differently. I can run the data, specifically by neighborhood and things like that. Happy to have these conversations. I'm kind of a data geek if you didn't notice. So that's it for this week. A new look at the weekly market report, a new glimpse for you at what's happening in our hyperlocal area. And if you, again, want to have those conversations with me, you can click down below at the bottom of the email, there'll be a link to get on my calendar. The easiest way to reach me is call or text me at 571-210-1866. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.